Welcome, everybody. Here we are together again. It is Monday. Okay, so last week we made it to, we finished chapter 4, right? So now we're entering chapter 5. Okay, so being that we are, oh, you're pink. I thought you were going behind me. Okay, being that we are a drop late, we're gonna jump right in. Okay, so for everyone who remembers chapter 5, the title of chapter 5 is The Anatomy of the Soul, What Your Soul Eats. All right, so isn't that cool how we're going through all of the like bodily, human things that we experience? Okay, so who knows the answer for number 32?
So the difference between clothing and food is that clothing, when you're wearing it, you can see it, it's there. You take it off, it's not with you anymore. But with food, it stays with you.
Yes. The difference between clothing and food is that clothing, while you have it, you wear it, and you have it. And if you're not wearing it, it comes off. And food, once you eat it, it sticks to you and it becomes a part of you. I love his story of his Pesach trip. Am I still in it? I think I am. Okay, now I can see you. Okay, what is the food of the soul?
No.
Yes.
Oh, there.
Come on. Does everyone get that? The food of the soul is Torah. And how does it work? I know, but you're doing great.
But yeah, when you learn it, it helps you.
Yeah, okay, yes. Can anyone help that?
It nourishes you.
Yes.
It gives you a sense of the soul or something like that.
Okay, so the way he explained it was that when you learn it, it sticks onto you, and that becomes your perspective. Once you understand the world through the Torah perspective, then that also becomes your perspective, and it starts to affect the way you live your life. So it'll essentially affect the rest of your life. Good job, Rachel. You get 100 points. Okay, so does that make sense why we spend an entire chapter focusing on feeding our neshama? I think I spoke about this last week. No, maybe I spoke about it at the Rosh Chodesh Kislev for Reagan, about how there's a beautiful sikha for Yitzchak Kislev. Did I speak about it last week? No? Okay, well, the sikha for Yitzchak Kislev talks about how someone who mines for, gold or special things under the ground, so they have to constantly, even though they're digging deep into the ground, they have to constantly be having a source of air, of oxygen. Because if you're going deep into the ground, but you don't have that source of oxygen, then you aren't able to breathe and be alive. So as much as they're trying to do amazing things by going into the ground and looking for these beautiful things to refine, the reality is that if they can't breathe, they're useless, right? So the way that it works is that it's the same with our lives. We came down to this world and we're looking for these sparks that we have to refine. We have to take mundane physicality and raise it up to Hashem and make Hashem a dwelling place down here below, right? But if we're not breathing on a daily basis, we're not useful at all, to say the least. So now that we understand chapter 5 is all how important it is to learn Torah, that it literally feeds you, it sustains you, how much more so we have to make Torah learning a regular thing. And in the Sikha, the Rebbe is a Yutis Kesef Sikha, and the Rebbe explains, can you imagine if someone were to tell you, no, I'm going for a trip down into the ground, and I'm only going to breathe Monday, Tuesday, I'll hold my breath Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday I'll come back up. You'd think he's crazy, right? That's insane. And meanwhile, it's the same thing with your neshama. We have to realize our neshama needs to eat. It needs to sustain itself. And it needs to be learning Torah constantly. Does that make sense? So setting regular times, even I was telling earlier that I wanted to share something about Hayomim. So I've read Hayomim like 7 million times because it's the same Hayomim the whole day. It's about my macharnim and wiping your fingers on your... I was like, oh man, I want to share something about Hayomim, but it's like not the Hayomim I thought it was... I read it a few times and I was expecting it to be a different day. Anyway, moving on.
Meaning the whole day you kept thinking...
Oh, it's a different Hayomim. I was like, oh, right, no, it's the same one. It's still Monday. It's still the same one. Okay. So if you ever need a little boost, Hayomim is a wonderful way of learning Torah daily. Chapter 6, the anatomy of the soul. The animal soul. We finally get to the animal soul. Yes, please, and thank you. Okay. What are the similarities between the structure of the animal soul and the godly soul?
It's like the same structure.
Yes, correct. It's the exact same structure, which is 3 intellectual. Yes. 7 emotional, and then garments, as you said. Do you need a pen? Volunteering one just in case. Okay, so it has the exact same thing. So once again, what's the difference? If it's the same, your nefesh bahamis and your nefesh elokis, your godly soul and your animal soul, but they have the same structure. What's the difference between them? Close. That was very, very close. Yes, you're onto the right path. Does anybody know? Like, where's your cheat sheet?
I know, I missed the question.
So the question is, what's the difference between the nefesh bahamis and the nefesh elokis?
Well, one is your help feeding your body or something like that. Your what physical needs.
Close.
You can elevate it to holy, or you can degrade it to evil.
Everything you're saying so far is true, but that's not the distinction between one and the other. And I have a feeling I can't get answers from this side.
I feel like I listened to the wrong. I actually listened.
Oh, you did?
I listened to the wrong thing.
I thought you just said that you didn't.
What'd you say?
Aren't these from the first CD still?
We're just finishing off the last few
You
questions
probably
from the
listened to
first
the right
CD.
thing.
You sure? I'm sure you listened to CD 2.
Yeah.
Yes, Baruch Hashem. So we are up to CD 2. We just didn't get to finish CD 1 fully.
Well, one I didn't listen to, so that's
Okay.
well, the answer is.
Baruch Hashem. Okay, well, I think I'm going to continue answering for everybody then. Okay, so the difference between the nefesh elokis and the nefesh bahamis is the structure is the same. The importance of who goes first is what's different. We have 3 intellect and 3 emotional, right? And 7 emotional, I mean. The question is, who rules the house? Remember we spoke about chinuch last week, right? Are the parents making decisions and they say, okay, this is what's best for our home. This is what's best for our children. We will set the standard and the children will be happy with it, right?
It's literally been changing my life. Literally so many times this week. I told my husband already after I came home this year. Am I allowed to talk?
Yeah, go for it. If you want to share personal, I can just.
No, but literally, I came home last week and I was like, okay, I said that line is gonna get me going. I was so many times this week where I suddenly, specifically related to buying stuff or that kind of thing. That's I guess where my
Yeah.
Anyway, so literally a few times this week, I literally said to myself that line that you said last week. I was like, who's in charge here?
Yes.
I said that line to myself a few times this week, and sometimes I succeeded, some not, but mostly yes.
That's
and,
amazing.
I really feel it's yeah.
Yay! That's
I'm really
awesome.
living with that.
Oh,
Just
that's
even my
awesome.
consciousness that when it happened, I was 1 second. I was just more looking at it from the outside as opposed to getting totally sucked into it.
And then going into it. Yes, that's exactly it. So someone just told a beautiful story of using that line.
Who's in charge here?
Yes.
I just kept saying that to myself. I was like, who's in charge here?
Exactly. That's exactly it. So the difference between the nefesh elokis and nefesh bahamis is who's in charge by the Nefesh Elokis, who's in charge, is the three intellectual faculties, because it makes sense. We do the right thing. The Eibusher told us in his Torah exactly what he wants. We follow what the Torah says. Boom, boom, boom. This is the right way of handling it. This is the way we're going to handle it, right? And then we say, okay, that's beautiful. And now for a lot of us, we started taking on different mitzvahs, and all of us are still growing. So there's certain things that you want to grow on. So realize that as long as you bring in your intellect first, you feed that emotion, because it's not just the intellect by itself. You feed that emotion, it'll feed onto itself, and your growth will be steady. Has anyone gone on a trip or seminary where you jump and you're like on this like, woo! For like
went it's fast.
Right. About that. And then there's other ones. But you're on this like high, this emotional, this amazing, incredible world of like bubble, like you're in this bubble of beauty and good things. It's amazing. And it's all emotional. Well, not all. They try and make it very intellectual as well, because then you're learning. But sometimes that external bubble that kind of feeds into it, as opposed to it being like, okay, this is a decision I want to work on, and I want to try and really improve, and I really want to try and grow. And slow and steady wins the race, all of these things. So who's taking charge then? Your intellectual faculties, right? So the difference, sorry, we got a little stuck, but the difference is the inverted structure. Who runs the home? The parents or the children? If your emotions are running off with you, and then your intellect is coming in, which be very careful, because you'll start to notice this in your life. There's many times when we have an emotional desire or emotional reaction to something, and then we have to back it up with our intellect. Like, for example, there's times when my feelings get hurt. And then I start to rationalize why it makes sense that my feelings should be hurt, right? Or I start to rationalize why it makes sense that like the other person is wrong. So first comes this emotion of, whatever it might be, and then we rationalize that emotion. Or we have a desire, like shopping or eating or whatever it is.
In that case, even though your intellect is getting involved, it's not the right kind of intellect.
Correct. Right. And that's what we have to realize, who's first.
Right.
Yes, because you're rationalizing the desire of the Nefesh Bahamas. Does that make sense? Yeah. So there, what's the difference between it, and this will help you in life a lot. Because when you realize in life that you have a decision to make, or you have a desire, or you have something you want to change in your life, who are you going to go to, and how are you going to handle it? You can tell which voice is speaking. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Chapter 7 and 8. We're about to finish off CD number 1 and get kicking on CD number 2. Question number 37. What is the relationship between the structure of the soul and the world at large?
Like a macrocosm of the soul.
Yes, exactly. So the structure of the world is a macrocosm of the world at large, which means that, microcosm of the world at large. I just said them backwards. That means that your soul structure fits exactly, or basically exactly the same as the world at large. And when we can learn from within ourselves, we can also see in the world at large. Does that make sense? And we're about to understand exactly.
Do you mean physical world or spiritual world?
Spiritual. I mean, the physical world, that it's run by the spiritual essence of it. Does that make sense? I mean, you can't see my face. I mean, certain people's faces are engraved on mountains in some place. But it ain't my face. And it ain't none of the people's faces I think are in this room. So not exactly physical, but we mean the same internal structure that we have is the same way that the world works. So for example, there are good and evil, and there's a positive side and there's a negative side, and then there's what's in between. And okay, 38. What are the kinds of klippa, coverings of the spark of holiness, that are in the world? What are the types of klippas? Just to make that.
Oh, there's klippas.
Cricket. Okay, thank you.
There's like total complete klippa.
Yes. Okay.
Also,
yes. There is one type of klippas noiga, and noiga is this like opaque color, so you can still see a light inside, or translucent.
Opaque, you can't see.
Oh, I thought opaque, you can see
Translucent.
some
There's
of it.
transparent, that's completely
There we
clear.
go.
Then
I didn't want to say
translucent, that
transparent.
only light comes through.
Opaque,
Yes.
You don't see.
You don't see at all? Okay.
Like,
So then, thank you for
translucent.
clarifying.
Like,
Translucent.
That's the
Yes.
only thing I remember.
Comes in handy for Chassidus. So there is a light inside and you can see it, and which the fact that you can see it means that you can elevate it. There are 3 types of klippas that we cannot touch whatsoever. Not good. Negative, don't go there, don't do them, don't look at them, think about them, talk about them. Does that make sense? And this, it says in Torah very clearly what those are. So basically just listen to Torah and you'll be fine. So there's one that is the klippa that can become holy, which is neutral.
Which is like, that's where most things fall in. That's the category most things in the world fall into.
Yes.
Which is Kipas Nega?
Yes, klippas nega, and then shlosh klippas tameas are the 3 klippas that cannot become holy. So
Until Mashiach comes. Because, right, like, let's say Chazer is in that category, but then Mashiach comes, so we're going to be eating bacon.
you see, I didn't know that. I mean, I don't get into it. I don't know. When Mashiach comes, we'll find out.
No, I think that's legit.
It sounds good.
Yes.
It smells good.
Oh gosh. Okay, 39. Moving on. Okay, 39. Was somebody by the door?
I would imagine if there was, they would get serious.
The water? Oh, okay. 39. Why do we need to know about the kinds of klippas in chapters 7 and 8?
Why? Well, because we need to understand that there's different types, and one kind of like is not completely, but that there is potential to elevate, and then there's ones that like we should not even go there.
Correct, exactly. In this way, we're able to know what are the things that we can make holy, that we have potential to elevate, and the things that we can't, and we should stay far away. And so that gives us clarity in the world at large. Okay. Now, Mazel Tov. We finished our first Chassidus. Okay. So now we're entering our second Chassidus, CD number 2. And question number 40. We left our first Chassidus with the Alter Rebbe with relief. What kind of relief?
What's going on between us?
Exactly. We're not going crazy. We know what's we know what's going on within us. And from chapters 1 through 8, we're able to understand the root of the conflict, the battle inside, the nefesh bahamis, the nefesh lekis, why there's a battle. And we realize that we're not nuts. I mean, some of us are, but not in this way. Not me. And it's comforting to be able to understand yourself.
Very.
Seems like Chava enjoyed it. Okay, so that was very nice and all, and we came out with such high relief. Now, question number 41. So why are we back?
How do we deal with it?
Yes, exactly. Now we need to obtain the tools to manage the conflict. That is exactly it. Isn't that beautiful? We had a full Chassidus with the Alter Rebbe. We came out with such knowledge to the point that some people in the room are already using it. And now we're back and we're like, okay, now what? Now what do we do with this knowledge, right? What do we do for the next step? So chapter 9, War over the City, the 2 Kings. Okay, question 42. Who are the 2 kings and what do they want? Very nice. So it's the nefesh bahamis, the animal soul, the nefesh lekis, the godly soul. What do they want? They want absolute control over the city, which is the body. and your actions and your thoughts and your speech. And now, 43, thoughts and speech. So who's the city? Ourselves. Well, the nefesh sichlis gets to decide between the nefesh elikis and the nefesh bahamis, but it's not the full extent, because you still have to do the action for whichever voice you want to listen to, right? So if you want to kiss a mezuzah, you still have to do the kissing the mezuzah. Or if you want to think about godly topics, such as all of us are right now, so you're making that conscious effort to think about it, right? Okay. What is a nefesh? Ah, very nice. Nefesh is a ratzon, in the same way as we say mesiras nefesh, which is a drive. So what's a nefesh elikis and nefesh bahamis? It's a godly drive, or it's an animalistic drive. It's a drive, a desire, Number 45. Why is it so hard to find compromise between the two nefashos?
They can't compromise.
Yes.
They feel like it's either life or death. Either they win or it's death.
Exactly. They can't compromise, and it feels like life or death for them. That's why I made that joke about the two-state solution. But yes, that's what I'm saying. He's hilarious. I love him. Yes, that is exactly it. If they compromise, it feels like suicide. It can't be halfway, because it's a full ratzon. They want you to do what they want you to do. Okay. 46. What are the 3 ways a conflict can seem to be resolved?
Either live together, like you're me, you're you. When you conquer, right?
Okay.
Or
Just keep it quiet.
Yes. Okay. So number 1, you accept the fact that there's 2 kings and they're in constant conflict. So sometimes it's good, like sometimes you do good and sometimes you don't do good. Because there's 2 kings and they're constant conflict. Sometimes one will win and sometimes the other one will win. Does that make sense? That's number 1.
You mean when they say be easy on yourself, like this way, like no, don't judge yourself too much because that's how you created? No. What?
I mean, that could be a form of it. What it means here is that there's 3 ways of handling the fact that we have a nefesh bahamis and a nefesh elikis, which means that at some points, just one's going to win and one's going to lose because they're both here. They're both willing to battle.
right, so meaning like don't feel so bad about yourself, but it's inevitable.
Right, so that is one, exactly. In that form, that is one. Yeah, in a certain sense. Because that's...
Also, like, not because we lost the battle yesterday, like we made a mistake yesterday, it doesn't mean that we can't win now. Like,
Yes.
sometimes because we lost the battle yesterday, we feel like, oh, I'm already losing battle, so I might as well also do this. And
Yeah.
that. So it's like,
That is
it
true.
it is very helpful to know that.
And it doesn't even have to be
You can
yesterday.
win today.
It's like,
minutes ago.
I just made a mistake. Now I'm going to go eat a whole chocolate cake, you know?
No, chas v'shalom.
Chas v'shalom. No such things.
sugar.
No sugar. Okay, number 2. Okay, so one king is under total control of the other, but fear is still in the air. Okay, so that's the second option. So the animal soul is under complete control of the godly soul. So that's option number 2. But it's not a settled thing. There's still fear in the air. Because you don't know when it's going to rile up and come and battling again. It's a scary thing.
It can only be the animal in charge of the godly soul. not
We're
the other way
hoping.
around.
We're hoping. This is a hopeful, wishful thinking. It would be pretty sad if it was the other way around.
If the
No,
godly soul's
she's
in
saying-
charge of the animal soul?
No. If the animal soul is under total control of the godly soul. If the godly soul is fully in charge of the animal soul. That's what we're hoping for.
It's like it's hard. Oh, it's been in.
Correct. Correct. You got it. Number
Sure feels
3.
like it's odd.
And number 3, the king has been turned over completely by the other king, and it has completely transformed to the other side. So it takes, as Shestab says, it takes an old refurbished Nefesh Bahamas and it turns it into a second Nefesh Elikis, right? So it took it or changed it and refurbished it and then sent it back with the Amazon sticker that says it's refurbished and good to go, right? Certified, exactly. Okay, so those are the 3 options. Yeah, is everybody good? So, now that we know this, what is the absolute dream? What is the dream of the godly soul?
Transform the-
Beautiful. To take the animal soul and turn it over to go in for the godly soul, to refurbish it. That's exactly what it wants. Because there's a beauty in the animal soul. The beauty is that it's passionate. You know that passion you have for that gadget that just came out of the latest phone or the...
So it doesn't stop to be animal soul.
No. It has that beautiful passion, but now that passion is turned for Kedusha, for godliness.
It was like total gear.
Total. Like, yeah, let's do this. Let's get so pumped and excited about Torah. And if it does that, then you know it's turning it. Or turned it.
Sort of like how we can elevate Gashmias.
Yes, exactly. Kind of like how we can elevate Gashmias to complete holiness. That's exactly it. And that passion, once it's turned over for desires of the godly soul, you have an incredible team right there. That's like
That would be fabulous.
fabulous. Exactly. That is exactly it. So now,
Question 46, that when you accept the fact that there's 2 kings and there's a constant battle, that's like a Russian?
sadly, I don't know if you remember the discussion he had about the word Russia, how rough it is and how most Rashaim are very nice, likable people. But yes, that is.
Another one that, I don't know, like I'm saying, I'm not a fan of me, so I'm there. Like I know that I have, sometimes I lose, sometimes I win.
Yes, we
That's
are.
where we're holding right with you.
We're holding with you, don't worry.
No, but
You're
like,
not that
yeah.
But our hopes are,
Like,
and
should we not say that it's the Russian level? Like, because
I have a friend who says we're all just people trying not to be Russian.
yes, exactly.
Like the verb tense instead of the noun.
I love that.
To be,
We are all. How did you say it? We're all just people
we're trying not to be Russian.
trying not to be Rashaim. That's exactly
Yeah,
it. Yes,
that's a nice
that is exactly it. And there's times, many pockets, Mitzvah, more and more and more in our lives when we're spending more time being Beinanim for those pockets of time than Rashaim. So hopefully we're on the upswing of things, which is a beautiful thing. Yes.
it's very relieving to know that, you know, we can be a Benini for a certain amount of time. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah,
it's
like he
really,
was
it's
like
eye-opening,
every
like
moment.
when I, Baruch Hashem, like now we're all in the Benini stage, so it's like, just keep on doing, like the story that he was saying, just keep it up, you know?
Yes,
Now pick
yes.
this up for the rest
For
of
the rest
your
of your life. Yes, I love that story.
Exactly, you can't just sit on the side and say nothing. It's like,
But
have
that's
more
the
physical
beauty.
things to take care of as well.
Exactly, but that's the beauty, because you can even, the Avishar is giving you such a gift that you can actually do that in your day-to-day life.
No, not
And-
that it's not possible. You just say
It's much
a little
harder.
harder than taking
It's
a
It's
physical-
definitely harder.
Boy, like, take
Say
it
tell
down.
him.
That's why we're not emotions. You know, we can't just stand with our feet together and talk to Hashem all day. You know, when we're in the world, he created a world for us to elevate it into beauty and to brilliance.
Yeah, and it's even higher. It's such an incredible beauty that's even higher than if we were just gonna sit and not do. So the fact that you can have positive thoughts and positive actions and positive words, godly thoughts, godly actions, godly words during your day-to-day life, that's elevating every step you take. That's elevating every, every breath, every, everything you eat, everything you're actually bringing that. And it's so powerful. That makes sense? So we have it, and we're gonna, it's Hashem. The more we know, the more we can accomplish. Okay, number 48. What is the dream of the animal soul? Correct. To have complete control over the nefesh bahamis, the nefesh elikis, I mean. Okay, and now we go.
What is, sorry, sometimes, because of the discussion of last time with like the Sahara and the
Yeah.
It's like,
Did you get?
what does it
were
mean
you
that
able
the
to get?
Nefesh Bahamis wants to have complete control of the Nefesh? Like, what's an example of that Nefesh Bahamis having control of the Nefesh?
Of the nefesh bahamis having control of the nefesh elikis.
Yeah.
A good example is when you, or someone, not you, when someone takes a look at their siddur and they think, wow, to whatever extent of davening you do, no pressure, no whatever, but like, wow, that siddur, I really should daven, or, oh, it's mincha time, the sun is setting, I just have to check one more Instagram feed, or I just have to check one more WhatsApp status, or, and then, boop, off it goes. So it's that.
But is it a Sahara? Like,
Well,
you were
when the
gonna look
animal
into.
soul
You said we're gonna talk about the different.
overindulges, which is kind of
so at that point, it could be specifically the Yetzer Hara trying to make sure you don't daven, or it could be your nefesh bahamis just wanting to check out more people's statuses, because like, who doesn't like social media? You know what I mean? Like, at that point, it's hazy. It's unclear where exactly that's coming from.
I feel like this concept is, giving you sort of ownership over the decisions you made.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like the Yetzer Hara, there are times where, yes, the Yetzer Hara, it's coming to you, and that's that strong feeling. But I think that when you're experiencing this conflict, that's you, and it's about taking that control over it. Like when you said before, like who's in charge here, right?
Yes.
So, it's taking ownership.
Yes, 100%. It's taking ownership, and not only that, but it's also realizing that with that ownership, you can also raise the animal soul to want higher desires, right? You can, let's just put it this way. If I gave you the same lollipop that made you like, ee! When you were in kindergarten, if I gave it to you right now, it wouldn't be quite as like, ee! Right?
I remember what was that ring.
Oh, the ring that you said.
Oh my gosh, I wanted one so badly for years.
No, the one you ate.
The lolly ring.
Yes, that's exactly it. But now
Oh
she's an
my
adult,
gosh.
and it is not the wee that used to be. So too with our desires. Exactly. Our desires for physicality, for child toys, like, okay, I still like my magnet tiles, but that's a different story.
I
But like,
totally buy toys for
I love toys. That's a different story. But oh, of course, it's for the kids. It's for the kids. I just happen to play with them, but like,
Even me, I buy those.
that's so beautiful dolls. Okay, so aside from toys, because that one doesn't count in this, that example. But candy, for example, the same types of candy, the same types of like flary socks that we used to wear when we were in like kindergarten does not excite us quite as much now as adults, right? Because we've matured our desires. So you can
Like,
actually
really
have
very little because we get about, I don't know, a burger or a new dress.
so it matured. Now the question is how much more we can mature it to want godly things.
I know, I'm always thinking like, I just want to be like as like about.
Right. And but for example, there could be a nice beauty in getting your Nefesh Bahamas excited about that gorgeous Shabbos outfit or that gorgeous Shabbos earrings that we just made Motzei Shabbos.
Yeah.
There they are.
That's not hard, but like I want to be like, yay to him.
So it's maturing. It's like a child. It takes some time to get it on there. And just so you know, we will work on it, but it's an intellect over emotion situation. If you start learning about Tehillim, take the back and read those little letters, not little, sometimes all long, but the letters that the Friedrich Rebbe wrote about Tehillim in the back, you start getting appreciation for it. So again, yes, there are things you can mature, and as you were saying about having ownership of your decisions, you can also mature those desires. Does that make sense? Those are like huge deal, because once you know that, you can definitely make that change for those things that you want to grow in your life, both begashmis and beruchnis. Does that make sense? Okay. Chapter 10. Now that we know how the battle works and what the battle kings and the whole situation is, now let's analyze the tzaddik, one type of battle that was played. Okay, 49. How does a tzaddik handle a war in the city? Kol hakavod. Yes, there is no war. It's a finished conflict. There are no bad guys. Finished. Now, another interesting question. 50. What are the two levels of the tzaddik? Ooh.
Like two types of a tzaddik?
Yes.
There's a tzaddik gamor, and I don't remember the names of the other two. Is that what you're?
Yes, different terminology, but yes.
Oh,
Tzaddik
one
gamor?
that was.
Yes.
One that was born already with the soul conquered, and one that
Not quite, not quite.
One who sees.
Go, Chi-Chi.
One is repulsed by, whatever mundane pleasures are and doesn't go pee at all. And then the other person who, they're able to sort of like sublimate it.
Yes, okay, that is correct. The answer I'm looking for was more based on the CDs though. But that was you're spot on. Anybody? Okay, I'll help you guys. Number 1, Tzaddik Viraloi.
I don't remember hearing that.
He neutralized the other side. Out. Finished.
And then the other one, he still has it, but it never makes it into the.
Close, that's a Beinani, but yes, you're onto the, yes, exactly. The other one, which is the Tzaddik V'Tovloi, he transformed the bad guys into good guys. The refurbished shtick. He took them, flipped them over, and now he has 2 Yeter Tovs. He has 2 Nefesh Elokis.
When you're saying the bad guys, who are you?
The animal soul, the desires of the animal soul. Meaning the 2 kings, right? There's the animal soul king and the godly soul king. So it took the entire other army, flipped it over, and now they're both in the same direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I thought it's
Okay.
harm.
Yes, sorry. It is not bad, but it has polar opposite. For the battle aspect, it has polar opposite desires. So therefore, it's not good.
Wait, what did you say that tzaddik Viralo was?
Tzaddik Viraloi, it neutralized the other side. It
So
got
he
rid of
said
it.
This, but he didn't call it tzaddik Viralo and tzaddik. I don't
Oh,
think
no?
it's mentioned that. Yeah, that's why.
No? Okay.
Do you remember hearing that? No.
I remember talking about the concept. I also don't know if I remember.
Okay.
No, it's
Okay,
easier
so to
when
give
he calls it by name
that you
refers to
can,
in Tanya.
right.
It's like, and you're like, oh, this, I don't know.
No, for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna give a huge lahavdil, and it's such a, just to show you how our insides also match the outsides, right? So here we're talking about a war within us, and so there is a certain battle that happens in this world where the warriors, what they do is, and this actually happens, and it's really, Mashiach should come right now and end this war. But what they do is that once they conquer a new city, they make like a carnival. And in this carnival, they bring comedians and they bring not actors, whatever, people to come and do shows and juggle and da 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 da. And they give candy to the kids and they give them balloons. And at the end of this whole thing, they preach their stuff. They tell them exactly why it is so much better now that we conquered your city, so much better now that we're here. And so what do? They take over these people. They don't subjugate them. They turn them into allies. Does that make sense?
That's a smart way of doing it.
Yes, it's just a
Very
big
sick.
shame that it's a terrible, terrible, terrible people.
I mean, not always, the side that wins is not always the bad guys. Like you said,
No, I'm saying in this
you're
particular,
saying that America came to free Germany and Europe.
yes, I'm
So
just
they were
saying
good.
in this particular people, it is very, very, very bad people.
Right.
And not only that, but they use very similar concepts to like mitzvah tanks, lahavdil. But they have these cars and they come and they bring their pamphlets and they share their stuff and they overturn cities into allies. So I'm making a ginormous lahavdil because these are terrible people and Hashem should finish them off or whatever, and Mashiach should come right now and this war should end. But that is the tactic that they use, and we can learn something from in here and we can see it also in the outside world. So imagine if you were to come and bring your mitzvah tank and your godly, you bring your nefesh Bahamas to come enjoy a delicious piece of Torah learning, and suddenly it says, wow, even my nefesh Bahamas enjoys coming to shir. Does that make sense? And we can really overturn, so even the nefesh Bahamas itself wants to run to shir, wants to go learn something.
Are you saying it in a way of like, for example, like let's say the shir has yummy food, so then the Narshans wants to come for the food, like that way, or like actually that like the whatever the learning is like so interesting that like you're really into it, but then how do you know that it's an Nefesh Bahamas that's into it?
It's a great question. So getting the food and coming for the food or coming for the social or coming for the enjoyable experience of being together actually trains the Nefesh Bahamas to think, wow, I really do enjoy that shir. So it's open to, it's kind of like when you like zhuzh like vegetables or something into like in my house we do NutriBullet, which like we put like all these vegetables and like all these things my kids wouldn't regularly eat, but we'd like put it with fruits and like whatever, we like make it delicious and then they love it. They dress it up, exactly, we dress it up. And now my kids ask me, Mommy, why don't we have NutriBullet tonight? Like it's a regular thing that they love, and it's just so nice to see how like now they themselves have started to enjoy it. Does that make sense? So yes, at first we come in for the sheer food or the nice group of friends or whatever, but like slowly but surely we can mature the Nefesh Bahamas to want the sheer. Does that make sense?